Okay, welcome. As you can see here, we're going to talk about guaranteed minimum income benefits, and actually want to talk about some of the pricing differences between a variable annuity and an index annuity when it comes to these riders. But also, I think it's important, here we are September 6, 2011, and I just looked up the 10-year Treasury. The market's equity markets are getting hit again, and 10-year Treasury is at 1.94%. So you can get an 8% roll up on some index annuities, right, on their income account, an 8% roll up. So how do you get 8% roll up when the 10-year Treasury is at 1.94? That's a pretty big delta. So we should talk about that. But let's just go through some math and use an example. Let's say we have a 50-year-old and they have $100,000 that they invest in an index annuity, and they, let's say over a 15-year period of time, the account value grows to 150, but their income value grows to 200,000. So here they are at 65 years old, 15 years later. And just so you know, for a 65-year-old today, a 5% distribution rate is a fair rate. Most all the insurance companies have that. So what's 5% of 200,000? Well, that equals $10,000. Why are we concerned about that? Well, if you're this person and you put in 100 and the account value is grown to 150, but you're ready to start taking income, and your income account value is 200, well, 200 is a bigger number, and so you can get this $10,000. But here's the question, right? Here's the question for you, and that question is, where does this $10,000 come from? The answer is, it comes initially from the account value. And you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what kind of deal is that? I put it in 100, it grows to 150, and then I'm just getting my money back? Well, let's just go through, what actually happened here. So over that 15-year period of time, the insurance company, they were earning interest. Okay. And we're taking this 10,000, so obviously we could get 15 years out of this 150, but because they're earning interest, let's just keep it simple and say that we're able to get 16 years worth of income out of this 150, meaning 10,000 into 150 is 15 years, plus we're getting some interest, so we're actually going to get 16 years, right? So with that 16 years, that takes us to 81 years old, right? So we know that we're going to get a check for $10,000 until we reach the age 81. And the question, back up to this original question, well, what happens if you live to age 90? What happens then? What happens between this period of time? Because we've seen that this $10,000 eliminated the account value because we lived too long. Well, where does that $10,000 come from now? Well, it comes from the insurance company. They're the ones on the hook, and that's why this is called insurance, right? I mean, that's the definition of how this risk pooling works, is that not everybody's going to live to age 90. Some people are not going to live to 81, so that's what actuaries do every day of their life. So this is the math, just so we understand where this income benefit comes from. Now, there are four reasons why this works, this pricing works the way it does, right? So we're going to go through how you get 8% in this type of environment. So there's four reasons, or we can even say four factors, if you will. Okay. The first factor of how this works, how we can guarantee the 8%, is that it's a return, like we just saw. It's the return of the client's own money. That's number one. Then the second one is time. we touched on time here, right? Because we have over time the ability to earn interest. So this works in favor of the insurance company. So, they had the original $100,000, and then plus time, from how they invested, that all helps them with this pricing. Then the third reason is, well, this rider we're charging a fee for it. So you'll see it as a rider fee. Okay, and that fee could be it could be 0.5%, or it could be 0.75%. Okay, and then the fourth, which is not talked about a lot, and that is the reserve fund. And the reserve fund is where this fee gets plowed into, right? So there's a reserve fund that this fee goes into. Now the reason this is important is that you have this big pool of policyholders, right? They all have their different policies, and let's say all these people have the income rider, and they're all paying this fee, right? This rider fee, and so it goes into this reserve fund. Well, not everybody's going to do the same thing. There's going to be some people at the end of their surrender period, they're going to surrender their policy, meaning they're just going to take their money out. Well, they took their money out, but yet they paid for the fee. So they paid for the fee, it went into the reserve account, but yet they didn't take any benefit from it. So that's one issue. Then there's other people that are going to take systematic withdrawals, meaning they're just going to do their own drawdown of their asset versus having the insurance company guarantee them amount. And then you're going to have some people, there's some people just going to pass away. They're just not, the money in effect is going to be moved on to the heirs. So if they pass away, they're not going to be able to use this rider either. So the point is, you have three examples of someone not using this reserve fund and this fee in there. That all helps with pricing. So when you add these four issues up, this explains why in the 10-year treasury, when it's 1.94, that an insurance company can give a roll-up as high as 8%. Okay, so let me just pause here and get my clean board here. Hold on. Okay, so now we have a little room to work with. Let's talk about the pricing difference between a variable annuity and an index annuity. So if you're in a VA, if you're in a variable annuity, okay, and you're using the guaranteed minimum income benefit, you're going to be put into some kind of asset allocation program, meaning 70% equities and 30% debt. It could be 60-40, it could be 50-50, but most all the time you're going to have to be put in here. Now, even with this, right, 70 equities, 30 bonds, you're still going to have some level of standard deviation. Okay, now that level's going to be still somewhere between 17 and 20%, right? You're not going to be at zero. Whereas an index annuity is fundamentally at zero. Why? Because the principal is guaranteed. Any exposure you have to the market with an index annuity is through the interest credit. You're using the interest credit to buy an option, let's say on the S&P, right? You can use another index, but so you're not actually using any principal to go into the market. You're using an interest credit. So as far as the asset, the core principal, there is no standard deviation in index annuity, whereas in a variable annuity you're at somewhere between 17 and 20%, just simply because of the layout, historically how this works, right? If you look at this, if you're an actuary and you're going to price this guaranteed minimum income benefit, right? So whatever the percentage is, whatever your roll-up percentage is, there are some factors here, and the way this works is, and these are general numbers when we did some of our own calculations in pricing product, that 80% of the time, when you have this roll up and you're charging a fee. You're charging a fee for the roll-up, just like we just talked about, and it goes in a reserve fund. So when you have the roll-up and you're charging your fee, 80% of the time you're making big money, right? Because of how you price this, you're charging the fee, and the markets are generally working in your favor. 15% of the time you are breaking even, meaning the benefit you're offering versus the fee that you're charging for it. 3% of the time you're losing money, meaning the amount of money that you're bringing in, and remember those 4 factors we talked about, but the money you're bringing in compared to what you're having to pay out in the roll-up, 3% of the time you're losing money. And then here, 2% of the time, guess what? You could bankrupt the company, bankrupt the insurance company, right? And you know what? This is what happened in 2008 to a lot of the insurance companies, because this component, right? This component went down drastically, so that therefore the asset went way down, and that put huge pressure on the insurance company to pay out whatever their guaranteed roll-up is. And that's why you saw a lot of variable annuity companies, they just simply exited the business. They just got out. And if they didn't exit, then the other thing you saw is that their roll-up rate went down, while the fee that they charged for the rate went up. And you're still seeing a lot of that today, because the actuaries, the one thing they're good at is looking at numbers. They're going to remember this. And back in the roaring 80s, 90s, and even part of the 2000s, when this was happening a lot, and even in so-so years this was happening, not very many people were losing money in how these riders worked, and that's why these riders got very aggressive. But then 2008 comes along, and even though 2% is a small percentage, it only has to happen once, and it causes a lot of pain. Okay, so one other thing I want to talk about here, and that's this fee, how variable annuity charges. Just to be clear on something, I think this is important. Let's say you have $100,000. Okay, and the fee, let's just pick a simple number of 1%. So that's what the insurance company is charging. They're charging a 1% fee. Well, 1% on 100,000 equals $1,000, right? Now, let's say over time that the rider value goes to 150. So this is the income value, goes to 150. But let's say a 2008 occurred and the account value goes down to $75,000. So this is the account value. All right. Well, guess what? This fee is still going to be charged, and it's charged at the benefit level. 1% charged at the benefit level. Well, guess what? When it's charged at the benefit level off of this kind of asset base, right? That's now a $2,000 charge, or the equivalent of a 2% charge, right? Because 1% charged on this level value at this asset rate equals this. Now, you know what? That becomes an expensive benefit. So you just have to be careful and watch that component. This is something people didn't have to worry about when the equity markets were constantly going up and everything was fat and happy. But that's certainly not the case now, and actuaries are constantly repricing all this stuff. So hopefully this helps you in understanding the balance between using the guaranteed minimum income benefit on both products, right? So it's not that the VA has its advantages, right? That you can get much more market upside, whereas the index annuity just plugs along and tries to give you a reasonable rate of return. And so it's a balancing act. You should have a portion of your money here and a portion of your money here, as well as all the other asset classes, right? So there's no perfect investment for all situations, but I just wanted to help you understand how the pricing works with these so you can make some better, more informed decisions. Okay? All right, thanks for your time.